Welcome to the History AI podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Welcome, listeners, to the latest episode of the History AI podcast, where we give you a full download on history's greatest sagas. I'm Chuck.
And I'm Marco. And today, we're hitching a ride back to the 19th century to explore the colossal undertaking that was the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad.
That's right, Marco. It was more than just laying down tracks, it was about connecting a nation.
But before we steam ahead, let's set the scene. It's the 1860s, America is growing faster than a cornstalk in July, and there's a big problem. The East and West are like awkward relatives at a family reunion, related but not really mingling.
Exactly, Marco. And like any good family mediator, President Abraham Lincoln stepped in. He was the one who designated mile marker 0 in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Legend has it, he chose the spot by literally poking a map with his finger.
That's one way to make your point. But it wasn't just Lincoln. There were big names involved, like Theodore Judah, the mastermind engineer who dreamt of iron rails crossing the nation. We can't talk about this monumental project without digging into the legal and financial bedrock that made it all possible: the Pacific Railway Acts.
Cue the legislative drama. It was 1862, and Congress passed an act that was essentially a green light for the railroad. This act provided land grants and bonds, kind of like an early Kickstarter for infrastructure.
And let's not forget the money. We're talking big bucks here. The government bonds were like giving the railroad companies a blank check signed by Uncle Sam himself.
But who really cashed in on this deal? That would be the railroad barons, the investors, and, let's not sugarcoat it, the politicians with their greased palms.
Greased with a side of scandal, like with the Credit Mobilier affair, where insiders got rich off overinflated contracts. Talk about profits chugging along at full steam.
Oh, they were riding that gravy train all the way to the bank, Marco. And let's not forget about the muscle behind the hustle, the workers. We had Irish immigrants, Civil War veterans, and thousands of Chinese laborers. They were the true backbone of the railroad.
It was a symphony of hammers and drills, folks. But constructing this 1,900-mile behemoth was no walk in the park. They blasted through the Sierra Nevada, braved the deserts, and even contended with the occasional bandit.
Speaking of bandits, you know who else is stealing the spotlight these days? Our sponsor. And with that, let's take a quick break. From the mind behind the History AI podcast comes an electrifying journey into the past. A ripple through time, Franklin's Folly. Dive into a tale where Benjamin Franklin, America's beloved inventor, takes an unexpected journey through time. But with his leap, he unleashes a powerful ripple. Now, with dark forces lurking in the shadows, harnessing this energy to shatter and enslave the world, it's a race against time. Will Franklin fix the future? Or will history rewrite itself? Uncover the secrets. A ripple through time, Franklin's Folly. Time has never been more fragile. On Amazon now, and we're back. Now, where were we? Ah yes, the companies. It was a race between the Union Pacific, building westward, and the Central Pacific, laying tracks eastward.
And it was cutthroat, Chuck. Not just with the landscape, but with each other. It was like the reality TV of the 1800s, without the TV.
Well put, Marco. The timeline was wild too. It all kicked off in 1863, but it wasn't until 1869 that the Golden Spike was driven at Promontory Summit in Utah, symbolically linking the nation.
That Golden Spike might as well have been a tweet heard round the world. It was the selfie of the 19th century.
And the impact, folks, was monumental. It revolutionized trade, travel, and even time itself with the creation of time zones.
Towns sprouted up along the route, creating new opportunities for businesses and settlers.
True, Marco. It's like they say, follow the money, and in this case, it led to new industries, real estate booms, and even the birth of tourism in the West.
So, in a way, the Transcontinental Railroad was the original Silicon Valley, minus the computers and hoodies, of course. Now, we can't cover everything in just one episode. Like how the snow sheds were constructed to prevent avalanches or the nitroglycerine used in tunneling.
Which, by the way, was as stable as a horse on a tightrope. But that's a story for another time.
So, we'll have to park our train here for now. We hope you enjoyed this journey through history.
And remember to subscribe, rate, and share our podcast. Help us lay more tracks for future episodes.
Thanks for tuning into the History AI podcast. I'm Marco.
And I'm Chuck. Keep chugging along through history, and we'll catch you at the next station. Oh, and one more thing, stay on track.
Oh, Chuck, you're off the rails.